Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Super Game Brothers podcast, a weekly podcast all about board games and video games that we do as two brothers every single week. This is episode number 24. I think it's 24. 24 is what I've got written down, at least, so we're going to go with that. I'm joined, like always, by the Brixton Supply Guy. Devin, how are you doing, Brixton Supply Guy?
I was been out there supplying all these Brixtons to those that need it.
Nice. I saw your hat and it reminded me of have you seen Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? I love that movie.
Yeah, I have.
What does George Clooney say? He's a Dapper Dan man. That's his kind of like hair gel he uses. Dapper Dan. So you're Brixton Supply Guy.
That is me.
Yeah.
Happy to
so
be
now you
here.
just need to make a movie, a star in it, and make millions of dollars as the Brixton Supply Guy.
It's a great idea. I would like millions of dollars.
It would make life a little simpler. Yeah. Well, Devin, we've already been talking for like 2.5 hours, so I don't know if we're going to have much else to say. So the audience might suffer because of that, but we'll pretend like we haven't. How are you doing today, Devin?
I'm doing well. Time's rolling by. I'm breathing. I have an abundance of food to eat. Great friends by my side. I got my car registered. As you know, I rented my car out to our sibling for a long time, like a year. And then I got it back and had gotten so comfortable with the fact that I didn't do anything that I didn't register it for 5 months, and it is now registered. And
nice.
As you know, registration doesn't start from the day you register it. It starts from the day you were supposed to register it.
That's right.
Which was 10 months ago. So
you have to do it again.
I got 2 months of this car being registered, 8 weeks that I can drive it.
I had a similar thing happen, actually. My car, I work from home, so I don't need it very often. And then the battery died. So it was like, I was like 6 months late as well. And I did it like 6 months ago, and I need to do it again now. So that happens. They get the money from you regardless, even if the car just sat there.
Oh yeah, they do. Yep.
Yeah. Did you get the new driver's license as well?
I've got an appointment next Friday at 12:30.
Nice. I was really nervous. I just had to get my driver's license renewed probably 2 months ago. I was nervous it was going to be a long appointment, but I was in and out in 5 minutes. So hopefully that's how it goes for you.
Wow. Yeah, I think setting the appointment is the key. I did that at
too.
the DMV, and I just watched people sit there for so long. And I was like the first one called up over the 200 people already sitting in there. Yeah,
I agree. The appointment is huge. You walk in, and you have like a little line of people queuing to get in. But then they ask you if you had an appointment. If you do, they send you like a different line. And yeah, I was called like within 90 seconds. So cool. That'll be fun.
Have you started Rings of Power?
We did. We watched only the first episode, though. And since we talked last week, the 4th and 5th have come out. So I watched one, but 2 new ones came out. So I'm still not keeping pace. So
wait, there's 5 out?
Well, maybe not. I think you said that there was... we talked last Wednesday for the podcast, and so we watched it, I think, that night. And then the new one would have come out Thursday, and then a new one comes out tomorrow, right?
Oh, correct.
So I guess tomorrow I'll be 2 more episodes behind. So I can't keep up, but we really liked it. Man, I forgot how beautiful that show is.
Oh,
it is unreal. I mean, just Amazon just to keep this family friendly, swinging all of their money around. Just like, hey, we can make the best show ever. Very impressive. Really liked the first episode. I know that show gets some hate, but I think it's a fun ride. Sometimes I'm like, okay, we can get that Hobbit girl off the screen. I don't need to see her for another 5 minutes, but I don't hate her either. So I'm just like having a good time.
Are you talking about Nori?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nori's cool, but But sometimes her little segment, especially in the first season, I feel like before like the character, which I'm assuming is Gandalf, I don't know. Before he like showed up, I'm like, man, they're spending a lot of time with this Hobbit girl who's like kind of a Hobbit, but a different kind of Hobbit that's always dirty. I don't know.
It's always dirty.
Yeah, they're not like bag end hobbits that are like clean and drinking tea. They're a little different, but you know, they're cool too. Anyways, yeah, Rings of Power is good. I made a list of the horror movies I'm going to watch with my wife too, and I talked to her about it. I told her these are like the ones that aren't as scary, so we're going to watch them. Just haven't yet. I can see, Devin, we didn't address this elephant right when we started. You are decked out for Halloween back there.
Oh yeah,
entire
I did
stream
this
room.
for
You got
$15 and in 15 minutes.
nice.
Heck yeah.
You got orange lights, cobwebs behind you. End up making your Twitch light look all cobwebby. Looks legit.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You must have hired like a marketing team. They're like, you need to ride this Halloween wave.
Yeah, I was like supplying all these Brixtons, and then I had to hire that marketing team earlier this week. It was crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Fun. Yeah, I don't think there's really anything new with me. Any new stuff with you? You watch any more horror movies this last week from that list we talked about?
I watched Maxine.
Any good?
Yeah, it was good enough. Kept my attention. A little bit of a smutty film, I would say.
Yeah, I've heard that series is.
But it was entertaining. I've watched a few horror films. I just watched The New Daughter or The Good Daughter, Kevin Costner. That one's a little bit older. That one's fun. I watched another one, and I'm trying to remember what it was. I don't think I will remember.
I feel like the couple that we mentioned last week where you were like, wow, I think I need to watch this one, were Strange Darling.
I tried to find it, and they said, they were like, this actually came out in 2023 for some festival, and then had a very limited theater showing very recently, I think August 2024, but it wasn't in any theaters near me. And so there was no way to watch it. I was sad because the reviews, like for a horror film, it had reviewed so well, but I wonder
of the year. Yeah.
I'm wondering if it reviewed so well because not too many hands have got on it yet.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. If it only had that release at that festival, then it might only have 3 reviews. Who knows? Cool. Well, the ones we're going to watch are, let me see, I've got it on my phone right here. It'll take me just 1 second here to get to my IMDb app. Ones I searched were, and we've already talked about these: Oddity, Long Legs, I Saw the TV Glow, Trap, and Late Night with the Devil, and maybe Infested, and maybe New Life. They hadn't decided on those 2 yet, but
I don't know the last 2. Does New Life have Robert Pattinson in it? Or is that High Life?
Must be High Life because it's not this one.
New Life. And you said Infested?
The Infested one is also about spiders, but it's like it was also really high on that Rotten Tomatoes list. But it's I think in a different country. And so I think it might even, the vocals might be in French. Not sure.
Oh, I see.
Anyways, we'll see. Maybe that'll get me in the cobwebs and orange light vibe.
If you want to watch a way weird show, you should watch, it's like somewhere in the 1970s, I believe, The Wicker Man. We've probably talked about this, but it's a trip.
I've seen the new one with Nicolas Cage, which I didn't think was very good. But I know that there's kind of a cult following for the old one. Is that the one you're talking about, like the old 60s, 70s one? Yeah.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to check that one out. Cool. Well, I think the only other update, Devin, from me, we filmed the episode last week on Wednesday. Next morning, I woke up, voice gone, which was weird because last week's episode was one of the shortest ones we've had in the last few months. It was like 2 hours. And so for like the last week, I've been fighting to get my voice back. And on all these work calls, I sounded like a preteen boy. I'm just like can barely squeak out words. So that was fun. I don't know why that happened. And I still feel like it's a little bit funky. But then we just talked for like 2.5 hours before before this started. So by the time this is done, I might not have my voice anymore. So you might have to carry the second half. We'll see. But anyways, there is not too much this week, so I think we'll get through pretty quick, other than one big item that everyone's talking about, which we'll get to when we get there. Not yet, everybody. Hold your horses.
Yeah.
Like I said at the top, this is a podcast that we do every week about board games, which I love. As you can see behind me, I have a ton of board games. I have 350, which makes me 350 times as much of a nerd as most people. And video games. I've played video games my whole life. Really love them. And Devin streams video games and also has played them his whole life and is much better at them than I am. So yeah, we play a lot of games. It's a lot of fun. We like talking about them too, even though, the show is just kind of sometimes a little random and we talk about spider movies for a minute. But it's a good time. So make sure to check out the other episodes we have on YouTube and podcast services. We do other content on Super Game Brothers YouTube channel. I do my board game content on Gaming Top Down. I do unboxings and reviews and top 10 lists and stuff. It's a pretty new channel, so I'm still like getting my legs under me, but all of this is new, so we still don't know what we're doing. Other than that, we have a giveaway. In September, we do one every month. This one is a free Disney Lorcana Gateway set, so it has a couple decks. You can get into Disney Lorcana if you want. I think it also has a booster pack or two in the box. Or you can get a gift card if you don't want that game. So make sure to join that. Check us out on Patreon. You can get these episodes 3 days early, get some exclusive videos, monthly Q&A, play games with us on Board Game Arena. I'm thinking we should add like a new section where people vote on like what videos we do next. I think that would be fun. Like, hey, I want to see you play this game, or do a playthrough of this, or do you have this, or David 3D print this and I want to watch the whole thing print for 4 hours. All of those really thrilling things, but we'll see. I'm not exactly sure where to put that yet. But that's in the hopper. So lots of stuff on Patreon. Check it out. Patreon.com/Super Game Brothers. You can also just follow the Patreon totally for free and still get alerted when stuff kind of queues up, and we do put some free stuff there as well. All right, we start all of our episodes with what we call, because Devin played Fallout a few months ago, it just kind of spurred this name, but this is the news mini nuke. Basically all of the quick announcements, trailers that came out for the last week, and there's not very many. There's a few board games that we have some synopses for that we'll kind of read and give them a little first glance. Devin will pull them up on the screen. It'll be a grand old time. And then one video game thing, and then we'll get into the new games that are out on subscription services this week. All right. So first up, we got 4 board games. First one is called Point of View Lost Places. And this is a new series of games that Haba is going to do. And it's kind of in the escape room game category. That's been a very popular category of board games recently. One of the most popular series is called Exit. And it's, basically you're trying to solve an escape room without actually having to go to an escape room. They like come in a box and you have to solve puzzles and work together and figure out clues. This one's kind of unique. And this version, Lost Places, is coming out at Spiel, the conference, in October, I think. And then another one called Spooky Festival is coming out before the end of the year. They're designed by Lucas Bluhl, and like I already said, published by Haba. And I'll read this little blurb here. That'll give you an idea of how it works, because I think it's a cool idea. Okay, Point of View Lost Places features 4 large folding maps that show a scene with hidden objects in a 3D style, but each map shows the scene from a different perspective. and each player or pair of players sees only one map at a time. As a result, no one has a complete overview of what's in the scene, so you'll need to pool your information together, which means that communication is key. The game includes 4 by 40, I don't know what that means, if there's 40, 4 by 40 puzzle cards that challenge you with a wide variety of tasks. What do the others see that you don't see yourself? To solve the puzzles, you have to talk to each other intensively, both about what you see and about what you don't see. Over 4 different chapters, you'll immerse yourself in exciting adventures and face new challenges time and again. In addition to teamwork, abstract thinking and smart combinations are required, with each chapter taking roughly 2 hours to solve in full. And so, yeah, there's 4 scenarios in there, and I think that's a cool idea. You basically work probably best with 4 or more players, I would imagine, since there's 4 different kind of sections of the map. But cool idea about working together with only being able to see a distinct kind of viewpoint of whatever it is, a crime scene or whatever you're trying to solve. So, cool idea. Wanted to give it a shout out. I'm very picky with these games. One that I did like is called Micro Macro Crime City. I don't remember if you were there, Devin, when we played it in Harriman, but it's a giant, like, black and white fold-out paper. And then on that paper, there's like a big city and tons of little things happening. Kind of looks like Where's Waldo, with like very small details. But you'll see the same character multiple times, as the image represents like movement through time as well. So you can solve, like, there's 10 or 12 different scenarios in that one where you can solve who robbed the bank. I don't think that was an actual one, but so you can see them like get in a car, and then you see them down the street still in the car, and then they pulled off into this parking lot and went and hid behind a lamppost, and then put their mask on, and then snuck in the bank and got the money, and then came out. And where did they escape to? Where did they bury the money? And so you're kind of doing this giant kind of picture Where's Waldo word search all together. Very small, so I had to get like these little magnifying glasses for all of us to be able to look at it together, but kind of a fun one. This gives me that kind of vibe, but with just that unique method of it being split out. Anyway, so look out for that one. End of the year. Okay. Next up is a game called Roaring Twenties. It's being published by Deep Print Games and is designed by Leo Colvini, and has this dinosaur that looks like it's going to meet either the Great Gatsby or, I don't know, Mr. Darcy or somebody. Going to something famous or fancy. Anyways, it looks like it's for 3 to 5 players in like 20 to 30 minutes, I think. And it's a bidding game. And Devin, I'm going to let you read that synopsis. So take away the Roaring Twenties for us.
Woohoo! Welcome to the Roaring Twenties, when you will try to attract the trendiest dinos to your glamorous party. Each round you bid on a dino or pass. As every dino has different preferences, you need either the right snacks to lure it or splendid gems to bribe it. If you want to jump out of the bidding, place your mine card on one of the bid cards available. The earlier you pass, the more choices you have. Whoever sticks in the bidding long enough wins the dino. Then they decide whether to pay with snacks or gems, with no change if you overpay. Your goal is to have the most points at game's end. Each dino is worth 1 to 5 on its own, with pairs and triplets being worth 3 and 6. That said, you can choose to discard an acquired dino if it's a duplicate in order to transform your mine card into a joker. Why would you want to do that? Because sequences of dinos are also worth points, with 6 in a row being worth 15, for example. If you make clever bids, occasionally pass at the right moment, and get the most valuable guests, you'll be crowned the ultimate prehistoric party animal.
Nice.
Sick.
I didn't think I would like auction and bidding games, but I think last week I talked about Skyrise and how I played that recently, and yeah, I think I'm starting to like that mechanism a bit more. It's a little tricky. It's more about playing like the other people at the table than playing the game sometimes. Like, how much do I think you'll you'll bid. And then I'm trying to bid just barely above that so I don't overbid. So I don't know, a quick, simple card game based on the bidding mechanism could be fun. And I like the funky artwork. Dinosaurs. I'm going to see the Great Gatsby. I think is a funny vibe. So, all right. And then there are 3 games that I don't know how to pronounce this publisher's name. Helvetica. It ends with a Q, not an A. Anyways, Helvetica are releasing 3 games this month. First one is called Yaxha. 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 Pronounce that in your head however you feel is correct. It was designed by Baptiste Viana, and you're kind of building these stacking blocks. It says, quote, use the blocks to create a pyramid bit by bit. All blocks must touch one another as you build. The bottom layer of the pyramid will be 4 blocks wide and long. And once you have 4 blocks in a 2x2 arrangement, you can place a block on top of these 4 blocks, but only if it's touching a block of the same color, whether below it or next to it. If you can't place a block, you must discard it. If you don't discard anything, you'll end up with a 4-level pyramid of 30 blocks. At game's end, you score points for the largest visible group in your pyramid of each color. Some blocks might be hidden and they don't score. So that's a cool idea. I like it when games do that. You're like building during the game and then you look at it top down for scoring. So like the ones hidden in the middle were helpful when you place them, but won't score in endgame scoring. Let's see, where was I? At game's end, in addition, for each bonus card that you satisfy, for example, having the most yellow blocks, having all 5 colors visible on the second layer of your pyramid, having the second largest group of blocks regardless of color, you score 5 points for each of those. Whoever has the highest score wins. I like a fun spatial puzzle, and the way those blocks look stacked up, it could be fun. Looks fairly simple and light, but hey, sometimes that's what I'm in the mood for. So that's Yaxha, again, being released this month. Next up is one called, I'm not sure how to pronounce this, Ninjan. I like Ninjan. Yeah. It's designed by a designer who I think is his first design, because the Board Game Geek database doesn't have a full name for him, just his username, which is 6Jizo. 6Jizo. Oh, and that's what it says on the box too. So maybe that is this person's official legal name. I don't know. Devin, go ahead and read this one about ninjas and rock, paper, scissors.
Ninjas bring rocks, scissors, and paper to a fight in Ninjan to help you recruit the strongest ninjas possible. Each player starts with a hand of 9 cards, with cards belonging to one of 3 suits, rock, paper, scissor, and being valued from -6 to 10. Place 3 random cards face up on the table in separate piles. These are your first targets. Each turn, each player chooses a card from their hand, then reveals them simultaneously. Going from high value to low, breaking ties according to the RPS rule. Players see whether they will claim one of the piles in the center of the table. If you play 8 rock, for example, you must claim one of the piles with a scissor card on top, placing these claimed cards face up in front of you, then starting a new pile with your 8 rock. If you cannot claim a card, place your played card on a pile, leaving all numbers in the pile visible. After 9 rounds, sum the value of the cards you've claimed. Whoever has the highest score wins.
Interesting idea. I've never, and maybe there are some that exist, but I've never played a game that used like the rock, paper, scissors rules. So it's kind of interesting. They just lean into it. Some of the cards have fists on them. Some have a hand making a peace sign for scissors, and the other one is a palm for paper. So kind of a fun idea. It's because they're using that symbology, is probably pretty easy to teach people. Because if they had gone with, well, red always beats green and loses to blue, like that's a little less clean. So I kind of like it. All right, and then last one they are releasing this month is called, I think they said it was pronounced Shock, but it's spelled XOK, just to really confuse you. But I like the way this one looks, to be honest. It is designed by Joel and Rafael Escalante. In Shock, you want to connect 10 of your fish and sharks. This is kind of an abstract game played on hexes. And then the fish and sharks are little kind of round or hexagon pieces with little notches cut out of them that are supposed to symbolize like the mouth of the sharks, which we'll get to in a second. Yeah, so you want to connect 10 of your fish and sharks, but your opponent has sharks as well and will use them to take out your fish. Each turn, you either place 2 fish on the board on adjacent empty spaces, or you place 1 shark. Sharks come in 2 sizes, small and large, and you can place a shark either directly on an opponent's fish or adjacent to one or more of your opponent's fish. When you place a small shark, it eats the fish in front of its mouth. When you place a large shark, it eats each fish in front of its 2 mouths. Yes, 2. In addition, if you place a shark on a fish, it eats that fish in addition to the 1 to 2 adjacent fish. A shark must eat at least 1 fish, and all eaten fish are returned to their owner and can be placed again later. Whoever first groups 10 or more of their fish wins. Fish and sharks wins. If a player cannot take a turn, the game ends and whoever has the largest group wins, with the number of sharks in those groups being the tiebreaker. So basically you're placing, if it's a shark piece, you place it on top to kind of remove your opponent's pieces, and you're trying to make your grouping the size of 10. So just kind of an abstract game that they've assigned turtles, or not turtles. I keep saying turtles because they look like turtles, fish and sharks to these kind of different shaped pieces. I played a really great abstract game this week, so after reading this one, I was like, ooh, that might be fun. But anyways, very simple looking game. Cool. Well, that is all of the kind of small board game announcements for this week. So there's only one more thing I wanted to cover here. Usually we have quite a few video game trailers, but I didn't see any. I don't know why it was, but this is the best announcement anyway, so it doesn't matter. Batatro, the amazing, amazing game that's on Steam and PlayStation. I don't know, it might be on Switch and Xbox, I'm not sure. It's coming to iOS and Android on the 26th of September, and it's going to be included in Apple Arcade. So I'm going to play it on my phone all the time for free, which is great. Well, not for I pay for Apple One or whatever, but play Batatro. It's amazing. I imagine as long as this mobile port isn't bad, like it'll be so fun to play on mobile just because the game rules. Play Batatro. That's all I'm going to say about that. Other than I thought that was a really cool announcement. All right, next up we cover the games that are new to subscription services for the month. Sony announced the games coming to their extra and premium tiers. For the extra tier, they have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games. First one being the most exciting for me. We'll talk about it more later in the show, but the Plucky Squire is out on Tuesday of next week, which is a day 1 release for PlayStation Plus, which is cool. They don't get many of those, but Animal Well was one. They had another one that I feel like was pretty solid. They've been really careful with like which ones they pick to be their day 1 releases, and I feel like they've been pretty great every time. I'm assuming the Plucky Squire is going to be great too because it looks amazing, but we'll see. That one's on day 1. Next up is one, I think there's an image for each one, Devin, on here if you scroll down, which is nice. Usually they don't do that, but next one's called Under the Waves, which looks like a underwater game, which would scare me, but it says it's a narrative-driven game about the engulfing power of grief. So maybe it's not as scary as Subnautica because that's a scary game. Anyways, that one, Night in the Woods, which is a really fun game. It's kind of like a quirky story about a teenager that I think comes home from college and is like meeting their friends again, and like they're trying to decide if they're going to like rejoin, like start their band, and it has some fun mini games and like good dialogue and stuff. It's pretty fun. I didn't ever finish it, but I played probably half and I really liked it. So Night in the Woods. Next is Chernobylite. All of these are on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, except for the Plucky Squire is just PlayStation 5. I don't know much about this game, Devin. If you close this big image, maybe we can read a little bit of the synopsis, but it kind of looks like it's a science fiction survival horror RPG. So there you go. Survival horror RPG. Survival, when you hear those words, Devin, survival horror, that seems like it's like right up your alley. But having said that,
survival games typically frustrate me because I don't want to have to feed my character. But someone did recommend that I play this like 5 weeks ago.
Oh, really? Because survival horror is like the genre that Resident Evil is like assigned generally.
Okay, I can get behind that.
Yeah,
Yes.
survival horror and survival are like very different. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe it'll be good, and it's gonna be free on Tuesday. So we'll see. Might have to research that one a little bit. Next up is Wild Card Football. I feel like we saw this one a couple weeks ago on the Epic Game Store or something. It's like a cartoony version of football with a 7-on-7 team-focused gameplay. Both of those also on both systems, PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. Next is Space Engineers, also on both. It's a sandbox game about engineering, construction, exploration, and survival in space and on planets. I have not heard of that one either, so I try it at your own maybe pleasure, or maybe not, but maybe it's great. Okay, other than that, we've got Road 96 for PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. Again, I don't even know what this one is, but it's an ever-evolving, story-driven adventure inspired by Tarantino, the Coen brothers, and Bong Joon-ho, made by the award-winning creators of Valiant Hearts and Memories Retold. Okay, I'm in now. I liked Valiant Hearts a lot. And we just talked about Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And the Coen brothers. Love their movies. And Bong Joon-ho did what's that one that won the Academy Award? Parasite, I think. So I'm maybe really into this one. Road 96.
Yeah.
Next up, a game Devin's really into, Ben 10. Sure, he's going to play all of that. Just kidding. I think this cartoon came out after we were past cartoon age. I don't think I've ever watched it, but there you go. If you like Ben 10, that one's only on PlayStation 4. And the next is Far Cry 5, only again on PlayStation 4. Okay, then the premium tier gets 4 games. First one is Pistol Whip, which is a PlayStation VR 2 game. It's supposed to be excellent. And it's supposed to be kind of like Beat Saber, but instead of lightsabers, you're like shooting like targets to like the rhythm, and I think also like smacking. So you're using guns instead of lightsabers in a similar kind of. I think it's also through like musical levels. I can't see. It doesn't fully say there, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. It's supposed to be great. I wish I had PSVR 2 because I would definitely try that, but money, right? Next up is 3 games that are classics that have kind of been re-released. First is Secret Agent Clank on PS4 and PS5. This was a PSP game where you just play as it says you play as Clank and Ratchet actually, and Captain Quark. So a Ratchet game on PSP. Next up is Sky Gunner, which is again on PS4 and PS5. It's a combat flight sim, third-person one that came to the PlayStation 2. I don't know anything about this game, but I kind of like that picture there, so maybe it's good. And last one is another game I hadn't heard of, Mr. Mosquito, which is also a PlayStation 2 game and will be on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. So if you have Extra and Premium and any of those games sounded interesting, make sure to play them before they are cycled out. Most games are in there for like 6 months or a year, sometimes longer, but some of them will get cycled out. This isn't the Essentials tier where if you add them to your library, you have them forever. So, okay, little note about that. Next up, Epic Game Store has 2 free games this week. First up is one that we've been talking about quite a bit lately, actually. It's that new Rugrats game. So I think it's a day one get for them, which is kind of cool.
Wow.
I only saw a couple reviews for it, and it said like lots of fun and frustration in a Rugrats world. So I don't know if it's supposed to be amazing, but I'll probably try it since it's gonna be free, and I can play it on my Rogue Ally, I would imagine. So Rugrats Adventures in Game Land is free, and then the other one is called Super Crazy Rhythm Castle, which again I had never heard of, but it kind of has a cool vibe, to be honest. It's like a multiplayer, like a co-op game where you're all playing like Guitar Hero like mini games in order to beat these levels. Kind of a cool vibe. I don't know much else about it, but like I'll have one player like doing this Guitar Hero thing, and then someone else is over here having to solve a puzzle, and then it'll swap it on you at certain points, and it looks like it throws like obstacles and enemies out at you. And so might be some silly fun there, especially if you like playing with friends. So add both of those games to your Epic Game Store library, and you'll have them free forever. All right, now for the big one, Devin. Prime Gaming finally released their free games for September list. I was looking for it last week, but they hadn't announced them yet, and there's a lot of them. I don't know that we need to read very much about most of them, but if you have Amazon Prime, again, you can add these to your library, and you'll have them forever. Some of them will give you a key for another store, like Good Old Games. Some of them will link directly to the Epic Game Store and just unlock it there for you. But these are ones that you should have forever. So make sure you add these to your collection. Some of them are excellent games that you've probably played by now, but if you haven't, like, wow, some great games. Like the first one is Shadow of Mordor, Game of the Year Edition. Excellent game. I loved that one. I almost got the platinum on that one. I feel like I liked it better than the second, even though I haven't finished the second, so I can't fully say that. But that one is free right now. Next, Lego Lord of the Rings is also free, kind of following up from the Rings of Power giveaway they had a few weeks ago. Borderlands 2 is the next one. It's also free right now. Shadow of the Tomb Raider Definitive Edition, Greedfall Gold Edition, Whispered Secrets Everburning Candles Collector's Edition. All of those I said to that point, except for that one, are absolutely excellent. I don't know anything about this Whispered Secrets one. Still in the now available section, we got Minabo, A Walk Through Life. It's a social simulation game where you walk the path of life while your turnip grows and thrives on its social relationships. You got that really social turnip. Oh, man. Let's see. Eternites, I think, was actually supposed to be pretty good, just from what I can remember about hearing the name. Kind of looks like a visual novel. After you click it, oh yeah, is a dating action game where you try to make the most out of life during the apocalypse. Lego Indiana Jones, The Original Adventures. Borderlands, the pre-sequel. So, I mean, you've got the pre-sequel and Borderlands 2 free this month. And then this next one, from here on out, they're not available right now. Well, they will be when you hear this. On September 12th, which is tomorrow, Tales from the Borderlands is free. I really like this one. This is one of my very favorite Telltale games, Tales from the Borderlands, which is surprising because it's like, I don't know. I think that was the first Borderlands thing I ever played. Really liked it. That one's good. 9 Years of Shadows. Don't know anything about that one. Moonlighter is an excellent indie game where you go out at night and fight monsters and then sell all the monster parts in your shop during the day. Very fun. Golfy. Play through procedurally generated levels, build a deck of crazy card abilities, and try to beat all 18 holes. Sounds fun to me. I'll probably try that. Next up is another golfing one that's really great. Cursed to Golf. You die and you're in golf purgatory and you have to do these fun golf levels. I have that one. It's fun. One called Hell Pie. It's an obscene 3D platformer that takes bad taste to the next level. So if you like Conker's Bad Fur Day, I guess, or other games trying to be racy, you might like Hell Pie. Showgunners is also on the 12th. Arcadegeddon, which I played for a night and had fun with, but never went back to. Then on the 19th, we have Thronebreaker, The Witcher's Tales, the single-player role-playing game set in the world of The Witcher. The Falconeer, also on the 19th. Become the Falconeer and soar through the skies as a powerful warbird. Sorry, Devin, you're just clicking it. You don't have to pull up pictures for everyone. I'm just kind of saying that. You're doing great. Let's see. Other than that, we've got Lego The Hobbit. If you want more Lord of the Rings stuff on the 19th. I love finding Cats and Pups Collector's Edition. Play new mini games, solve fun puzzles, and collect all the adorable cats and pups. That's what that one says. Kerbal Space Program, which is supposed to be great as well. Mystery Case Files Black Crown Collector's Edition. That one's on the 26th. I don't know anything about that one. Ghost Song on the 26th. Inglet on the 26th. Jump between bubbles that float in the sky like you're a space dolphin. Black Desert. Experience intense, action-packed combat, battle massive world bosses, fight alongside friends to siege and conquer castles, and train in professions such as fishing, trading, crafting, cooking, and more. That was a long sentence. And then last up, Gianna Sisters Twisted Dreams. It's a blistering hardcore platformer. I didn't think that one looked very good, but lots of good stuff in there. Add those to your libraries as well. Anyways, that was such a long list. We just kind of stayed there with IGN's article, and it was a lot of words to hear and see, but lots of free games on Prime. Make sure to get those. All right, that's it for the news mini nuke. So we're moving on to the games that we played this last week. I thought, Devin, we would talk about these two together, since I think you finished one and we both played the other one. So first up, I'll just give a quick update on Black Myth Wukong. I played a little bit more. I got to that boss that I think is the first filter that most people have had. The one that has the second stage where he grows like the snake tail in the water. I almost got him a couple times. I've probably tried him like 5 or 6 times at this point. So I'm getting close. But he does get a little tough there with some of those moves, and the timing on the dodges is kicking my butt. But still really like it. Very, very fun. But I'm not much further than I was last time. Devin, I think you hadn't quite finished this game last episode, and I think you have now. Is that correct?
Probably, yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
How did you like the last tiny portion that you played since then? How was the last boss and the area leading up to that, I guess?
We did 2 or 3 very difficult bosses as the last things that we did for Endgame. I think that we pretty much saw everything. We checked our inventory for any key items and made sure to go use those in the worlds they were associated with. Man, it was hard. We respect our character multiple times, made sure our medicines were on point. I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, but most people have probably, I don't know. If this is a spoiler, I'm sorry. Basically, used a resurrection medicine to get through one of the fights and clutched it up at the end. I think you were watching me when I headbutted. I headbutted one of the bosses as a rock. And it was just the end. And we beat it finally.
Yep.
The game's fantastic. I had not enough good things to say about this game, honestly. Favorite campaign game I've played in a fat minute. That's new.
Cool. Couple follow-up questions with now that it's done. Black Myth or Lies of P? Which one did you like better?
Ooh, that's tough. There are some things about Lies of P that I liked better, like the customization of weapons, and their weapon system was super cool. Handle and blade, you could separate them.
Yeah.
The aesthetic of Lies of P, in my opinion, is better.
Yeah.
But this is super cool. I've never played a game that's in like this Chinese type Kung Fu Panda live action world. You know, this is honestly super good. And there were some spots in this game that I thought were so dope. Like you come to this one area and I think you fight this boss and then he throws you in his Santa Claus bag and then you're like smaller and you fight a monkey in his Santa bag. And then you come out and then you fight him for the last phase, like on his room decoration. It was like, yeah, it was crazy. And I was like, that's so dope. I don't know which game I would pick. This game was so fun to upgrade. I like that it was free to respec and just try different builds. They didn't punish you for doing so.
Yeah.
This game might have been slightly easier than Lies of P. There were some bosses in Lies of P that I never thought we were passing.
Yeah.
But both games are great. You can learn the combat, you can learn the boss's move sets, and then it gives you a chance to actually succeed. That's my favorite thing about Wukong is if you really focus on the way that the enemy is moving, you can figure out where you're dodging earlier or late and master a fight to where you could almost do it with no magic because you know their move set so well.
Mm-hmm.
So both beautiful games.
Cool. Yeah, I just thought I better ask since I think those are probably the two that you liked towards the top this year, I think. So cool. Yeah, I hope to continue to play that. It's like I said at the top, I'm not quite as good at games, especially games like this as Devin is. So we'll see if I if I beat the snake boss, I'm sure I'll get stuck at some other one. And I know which ones they will be, Mr. Liu Yang or Lightning Dude. Yellow
Loong.
That was the word. And some others, but we'll see. Other than that, I've only been playing one other video game this week. But me and my kids are both obsessed with it, which has been fun. It's Astro Bot. And man, this game is really, really great. I feel like they've used a lot of like, it's a hard thing, right? Like good artists copy, great artists steal, I think is the saying, right? And there's definitely like, it feels very much inspired by Super Mario Galaxy, in my opinion. But that's my favorite Mario game, other than the 2D ones, probably ever. And so I'm like, yeah, freaking rip it off. And it's got all these fun like PlayStation references. The graphics are amazing. Like the use of the DualSense controller is definitely the best. Any game uses it. I think it's excellent. I think it's just so good. I love platformers though, so this type of game has like a special place in my heart. So I'm like really vibing with this one. I think I've beat the first 2 worlds, and I'm trying like a pretty completionist run. I have over 100 bots saved at this point. So still a lot left to do. I think there are 300 total and like 6 worlds or something. But yeah, really, really love it. Some of the, after each boss, at least in the first 2 worlds, I don't know if they'll change this. They have a level that is like specific to a PlayStation world. Like, and I won't spoil what they are, but those levels right after you beat the boss and like that are more special and unique, in my opinion, are really, really cool. Like, didn't really expect them, and they like really respect like the I mean, it's showing Kratos right here. That's one of them. So really fun bot of war level was great. And game has quite a few secrets actually. And you can like find secret levels that are much more difficult. So yeah, really love it so far. I don't know if it will be in my top like tier of 3D platformers, but here in the like first 5 hours, I have found like almost nothing wrong with it. I think it's just extreme amounts of like fun and joy like the whole time you're playing it. And I think that's one of my favorite things about this genre is like, okay, I'm not fighting like some grim like monkey. I can like have some fun and laugh and just be like chill and happy for a minute. And they just kind of go nuts with that. Like, oh, you're gonna use this like fire hydrant to spray this seed, and all of a sudden this tree's gonna grow and the tree's gonna start singing, and you're gonna do the whole level around this singing tree. So it's just like they just go hard. Oh man, some great levels. I don't want to spoil too much, but again, just kind of, it's hard not to be inspired by Mario just because of how many Mario games there has been, and Nintendo's the king of 2D and 3D platformers. But in Super Mario 3, I remember playing that one like so distinctly at our cousin's house. There's the set of levels you get to where, I don't remember the name of the level, but Mario is much smaller. So like all the Goombas are massive, and the Koopas are huge, and the turtle shells are huge. And there's at least one level in this that gives you an item that lets you shrink at will. And that is so cool in this game when you like shrink into the blades of grass. Anyways, Astro Bot's amazing. I won't say like too much more because I don't want to spoil any like cool moments. The boss fights are really fun. They like throw some surprise bosses in every once in a while too that are kind of like mini bosses. Really fun like power-ups that are really unique, like this one that's like, a sponge, and the one they just showed that lets you slow down time. Yeah, they just had a lot of fun like making this game. You can tell that, yeah, it's just excellent. So love Astro Bot. Devin, I know you played it on stream, which is probably tricky because I feel like, and maybe not, but depending on who's like watching the stream, this kind of game might not be for them. I feel like a lot of people don't like platformers or pixel art, for example. This isn't pixel art, but I feel like it could kind of fall into people think of it in the same way as like a pixel art game, and like, why would you stream Donkey Kong or something? But what was your experience playing Astro Bot?
I think you're a bit further than me, I assume, but I thought it was fantastic. It was very smooth. I think I needed to adjust my sensitivity slightly. It was maybe a little slow for me at first, but
yeah, the camera sensitivity
like you
is a little
said,
slow.
the haptic feedback in the controller is fantastic. It's every part of this game is supposed to be playful. Every time you catch a character, you can flip them over and over and over after you catch them on the controller. You can zoom in on them. Very cool mechanics. That was my favorite part of the game, is that each level was going to be different than the last by using some new mechanic. And I was excited to see what it was. We had a ton of people saying, I can't with the cuteness overload of this game. I can't. This game's so cute. This game's so cute. It really is very pretty. First boss I fought, I was impressed with the difficulty level for a game like this was actually higher during the boss fight than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, the gorilla.
Yeah, it was easy to understand, but it was like, whoa, I didn't expect that. And
yeah, when the camera turns and you have to go through like the sign that he's pushing
sideways.
So cool.
It really is super, super good. I can see why people are reviewing it so high. But I've only got like 6 hours with it so far, which I mean, I guess should seem like enough to judge it, but it's been fun. I'm impressed by how many secrets there are.
Yeah.
It's like, check your corners in this game. If you look off an edge, you might just find a whole other area with someone to save. It really is super, super good.
And again, just kind of inspired by Mario here, but not all, but probably a third of the levels have a secret exit, like a secret warp exit that will take you to a secret world. And the secret world has like bonus levels in it. And those are really tricky to find. I've only found a couple so far. But yeah, lots of secrets. I've been surprised too. There's generally like 7 bots and then 3 puzzle pieces. But then yeah, those secret exits are hard to find. Not to cut you off with what you were saying, but just wanted to double down on the secrets thing. I think it does it really well.
Yeah, that's about all I have to say about the game. I'm excited to try it again. Platformers aren't as for me as they are for others, but I think that it's super good for what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Really I don't want to play them all the time. I mean, I probably could, but I'm a unique breed, but I'm just built different.
Yeah, that's right.
No, but yeah, I don't want to play them all the time either. But man, what a great like palette cleanser going from Wukong, where I'm like, oh man, I'm struggling, to this game. Like, this game's not especially difficult. It definitely ramps as you get farther though, and the secret levels are harder, which I appreciate. Again, that's what Mario does. Like the levels all the way to Bowser are like pretty simple, but then if you start like doing the post Bowser stuff and finding the secret levels, that's when they pull out the difficulty. And they're kind of doing the same thing here. But yeah, just fun. Really, really, really cool. Again, it just makes me want the Switch 2 a bit. Like, give me Mario in 4K, because I feel like just that extra little crispness on how clean and pretty it looks. Man, it looks wonderful. Not saying that Super Mario Wonder and any of the recent Mario games look bad, because Super Mario Wonder might be the prettiest game I've ever seen in my life, but I just think it would look better at 4K. So I don't know. That's just me being picky at this point. But anyways, Astro Bot's amazing. Definitely recommend it. I think it would be worth $70. I think they were just a little nervous to do that price point, and so it's $60, which really isn't that much less. But nice little $10 discount if you're worried about that. So anyways, we'll talk about Astro Bot some more in the future, I'm sure, but very highly recommended from me. And if you like PlayStation, like, I think that will just add to your enjoyment, because there are so many references. and like bonus levels that are all about like PlayStation history. If you don't like PlayStation, that probably won't hit you the same way, even though I still think the platforming and everything else is great. But Astro Bot Super. Devin, I know you played one other game, I think just one day, maybe like 5-6 hours, but tell us about this spooky game that matches your backdrop.
Yeah, so we purchased the casting of Frank Stone. Perfect timing. The casting of Frank Stone. It's very dark anthology. It might even be dark anthology. I'm not sure, but it is put in the world of Dead by Daylight. So you'll see a lot of references to Dead by Daylight and its killers, that type of thing. I thought that part of the game was cool. On that note, though, from what I've seen so far, I wish that the game was $30 instead of $40. There are some games that take such a linear path that are a little bit frustrating to play. There are times where I couldn't even turn around on a set of stairs because it wanted to animate my movement so much that I needed to walk all the way down or up the stairs to turn around and go back up or down the stairs.
Interesting.
But cool game with a ton of cutscenes, great graphics. It as a streamer, sometimes it's hard to pay full attention to the story because I prefer to just talk to the people that are watching. And so I hardly know what's going on, but we've already got some people killed, made some dumb decisions. But the funny thing about this game and any of the Dark Anthology games is it's beautiful no matter what happens. Because any decision leads to a cutscene that most people probably haven't seen. And every decision matters. Like, here's an example. We could walk up a ramp or go up a ladder. And I don't know that that's going to make a huge difference, but potentially. We chose the ladder, so I have no idea what happened if you go up the ramp. There's going to be huge replayability in this game if you can stand some repetition of scenes that you have seen.
Yeah.
My hope is that they would put a way to skip cutscenes if you've already played through the game once. The issue with that, though, is there's skill checks in the cutscenes.
Right. So, yeah, I'm seeing those right now.
You're watching a cutscene and it's like, you better make sure you're still holding that controller, because if not, you're falling off this cliff. And so, a little bit difficult to stream, but super fun. It's good. It's not great. The movement is very frustrating at times. But there's collectibles, hidden things. It's a horror vibe. I've got no complaints. I'm excited to finish it. And then I'll probably try Chernobyl Light as well, if that's going to be free.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully that'll be good too. Cool. Yeah, I haven't played any of the Dark Pictures anthology. I played Until Dawn, which I thought was fun. But I'm very picky with replaying games. So I'm not one that's going to go back and play through one of these again. I might like Google the other endings, but for me to play a game again, generally has to have like excellent gameplay, or like, I don't know, what games have I played a couple times? I've played The Last of Us a few times. I think it plays well, but that's mainly the story pulling you through. So you either have to like really vibe with the story and it's been like a few years and you want to replay it, or the gameplay is so excellent that I just want to play it for that. And this game, I imagine the horror story is like kind of fun and sets up some scary situations, but I don't imagine it's Inception pulling me back in or something. And with kind of, I also don't imagine the gameplay is like Resogun fun level of movement either. So probably one I would play through once and then abandon.
I have a thought about video games very quickly. We should get rid of doors in games unless it's a boss room. I don't want to see a door in another video game unless it leads me directly into a boss room, because they are so distracting. Firstly. Secondly, they're disorienting. If you walk through a door and it closes behind you, you forget the layout of the area behind you because of this animation of like going through a door.
Yeah.
So I think there's like a lot of areas I missed in this game because I would enter a door and it opened up to a new area Yeah, I don't know. I definitely missed a lot. We didn't search our corners in this game at all.
Yeah.
But
I do
that's the beauty
appreciate.
of it. They want you to replay it and your
Yeah.
story will change.
Yeah, definitely. Continuing the doors tangent, I do appreciate it when a game has doors, but also lets me go through them quickly. Like, I remember the first time I played Breath of the Wild, I got to a town and I was like, oh man, there's doors. But then you go up to a door and you can just walk in, and like the house is part of the environment. And yeah, there's like a tiny little animation of him walking in, but it's not like a load screen or anything like in previous Zeldas. And that was kind of like a godsend because I was like, wow, this is so cool. I can just like go in and out of buildings, and then like things like Red Dead and stuff. And so sometimes I like that. But then you've got Resident Evil where like not the more recent ones, but if you like replay Resident Evil 1 and there's a 10-second cutscene that just shows the door with black around it and the door's opening, and it creaks and it takes 15 seconds for you to get back to the character, then I'm definitely like, I don't want to go back through the door and I don't remember what was back there. So I get it.
Maybe my complaint is the animation to the door opening and closing is too
long,
detailed. I don't need to look down at every handle of every door I touch and watch how you open it. It would just be nice to just keep a third person view.
Yeah.
And just quickly get through it, maybe.
Yep, I agree.
I don't know. It's a small complaint, but it can be frustrating.
When I go through a door in real life, I don't stop and like go, ooh, door, and make a noise with my mouth. I just naturally lift my hand, doors open, and I'm through. And so if a game does that fast, the character pulls their hands up naturally and just does it, and I can walk right through it. That's the best case scenario, I think.
Yeah.
Cool. Fun games. We got horror. We got some Astro Bot, which I would call a kid game, but hey, I'm probably loving it more than any of my kids, so it's an adult game, dang it. And right. Black Myth Wukong for the hardcore challenge. What's that called? Narcissist? That's not the right word. What's the word for somebody that loves like... Oh, what is that word? Masochist? I think it's masochist. It doesn't matter.
Mechanic?
So yeah, mechanic. Or a therapist.
I don't know. I don't know vocab, bro.
It doesn't matter. I obviously don't either. Fun games this week. I've got 3 board games switching over that I played this week. Pretty short and simple games, so I won't go talk about them too long. But first up, I talked about this last week. I just got the second expansion to Abyss. I think it actually came out first. But now I have both the Kraken and Leviathan expansion to Abyss. So I played Abyss this last week, and it was fun. Abyss has this weird... I don't even know if weird's the right word. It has this mechanism that I don't see in very many other games. You're trying to get these little cards, and the cards are like your allies, and you use those allies to get these Lord cards, and when someone gets 7 Lords, the game ends. When you get those allies, you do it by exploring the depths, and so you'll start flipping over from this deck of face-down cards. When you flip one over, before you can take it on your turn, you have to offer it to the other players in turn order. You say, hey, do you want this card? And if they want it, they can buy it from you for a pearl, which is the currency in the game. If they don't want it, then it goes to the next person. And if they don't want it, then it comes back around to you and you can take it for free. So on your turn, when you're flipping something over, you don't get first dibs to it, but people can pay you for it. And I think it's a cool and unique idea, but I've struggled with it a little bit because I'm like, it's my turn. This nice card just popped up. I freaking want it. And so I feel like I can't in my head like figure out the best way to play this game because it has that mechanism that I'm struggling to like get around. Having said that, I think it's very unique. The artwork is amazing as long as you like fantasy, like it's all like underwater ocean creatures with kind of like a halfway horror vibe. Very, very cool game. I do think that the Leviathan expansion especially makes the game better. When you're flipping over that deck of cards that I mentioned, if a monster card comes out, then you have to fight. Well, you can choose to either flee or fight from a big Leviathan monster. And that makes that interaction much more exciting with the expansion. In the base game, it was like, do you fight it or no? If you say yes, you win. In this game, it's like, here's the Leviathan that comes out. If you want to fight it, you have to give up one of your ally cards and roll a die and hope you get a high enough number. And it's a lot more exciting. So I do like that one a lot. The Kraken expansion, I don't think is bad at all. I just don't think it's quite as good. But it introduces black pearls. So again, currency you can use, but at the end of the game, there'll be a negative point each. So they're kind of tainted currency. So you want to get rid of them after you get them, but you can't spend them until you've spent all of your white ones. So very cool idea, I think, in that. So yeah, I really like Abyss, very unique. I'm not sure like if I was going to review it and rate it, what I would give it, just because of the uniqueness of the game, I got crushed. I struggled to like figure out the best strategy because I'm like, oh, this lord says I should fight some monsters, so I'm going to flip over that explore deck a ton and hopefully get some monsters. And then I didn't. And got some bad cards and lost by 25 points or something, which is a lot in this game. But it's a fun game, and I think it's very unique. I like the pearls. Even though it's a weird mechanic that I don't understand how to use the best, I like flipping over a card, and then someone buys it, gives me a pearl, flip over another card, and the next person buys it, which costs them 2 pearls now. So now I've got 3 more pearls all of a sudden. But because of that and how the ally cards work, it's a little tricky to teach, even though it's a pretty simple game. I think it's only around like a 2 or a 2.2 or something. So not very complex, but a couple unique things that make it a little trickier to teach than some other games around the same difficulty level. But fun game. Next up, I had a friend come over and we played just a couple 2-player games. I got a new one that I really, really like. At least after one play. We'll see if I still like it later. But it's called Beer and Bread. And I've got it right here because after I tell you about it, I'm going to show you the insert I printed for it. So we got a double trouble here. But Beer and Bread is a cool 2-player game where it's kind of similar to Caper Europe, where you have a hand of 5 cards. On your turn, you play one, and then your opponent plays one, and then you swap hands. And then you do the same thing. Play a card, swap hands. I might like this one better than Caper. Caper's a little bit simpler, but this one has 6 rounds, and on the Years of Plenty, you do what I just explained. But then on the Years of Famine, you don't change hands. You just get to keep all 5 of your cards. And I like those years because I can plan a little better, because once I give the other player the hand of cards, I immediately forgot what any of them are. I just have a bad memory. And so I like those alternating years. This game also has a couple other cool things. You're brewing beer and baking bread in your town, and they'll give you points at the end of the game based on the type of bread and beer it was. And at the end of the game, you're going to look at your stack of beer and your stack of bread cards and count them up separately to see how many points you scored for each. And your points at the end of the game are equal to the lesser of the 2. So you want to try to keep them as even as you can, because if I only do 10 points of bread and 40 points of beer, I'm only going to score 10 points at the end of the game. So I want to keep them even, but they require different resources. And yeah, I think it's a really, really good 2-player game, to be honest. Has another cool mechanism where if you ever have too many resources and you can't keep them in your storehouse, they don't just go back to the supply. You have to give your excess to the other player because they're the other village just across the river. So you never want to get too many things either, because then you're helping the other person. So some cool interaction in the game, in my opinion. So Beer and Bread, I think, is really excellent. Just to show you this insert I 3D printed as a little tangent. The game has an insert that works pretty well, but I sleeved the cards, and because of that, they wouldn't fit. But I found this cool insert that somebody made online. Again, credit to them. I did not make it. And it now will fit all of the sleeved cards. And I think the coolest part is, let's see if I can pull it out in my example. This resource tray just pops right out. So I can just pop this out, pull out the cards, and we're ready to play, which is really cool. So just as I make a ton of noise with it.
Did it all just come like bagged up?
Yeah, it was in bags, and there was a cardboard insert for the cards to have a little slot, but once I put them in sleeves, they were too tall for that insert anyways. So I didn't have a place for them, so I was going to throw the insert away regardless. But then, yeah, everything would have been in baggies. But now it's in a cool insert. So 3D printer, still fun. All right, and last game, after we played that, we had like 20 minutes left, so we played a round of the abstract game that I mentioned earlier. This is one of my very favorite abstract games. I haven't played it in a couple years, and I don't know why, because it's excellent. It's called Yinsh. It's a very famous one in this series called the GIPF project. And I think that project has like 6 games in it. Some of the others are called like Czar, and I don't remember all the rest. They all have 5 letters. Very interesting. This one is cool. It's kind of like Othello. You're trying to get 5 of your color of disc in a row, and you have 5 rings. And on your turn, you move one of your rings, and any pieces you jump over flip to the other side. So you're constantly flipping them, back from black to white. And if by flipping you cause a line of 5 to happen, then you take your 5 pieces off and remove one of your 5 rings. So now, instead of having 5 rings that you could move from, you only have 4. So you're a little bit less powerful after you get one. And then the first person to get 3 of their rings off wins. And yeah, very, very simple rule set. But man, it's a brutal abstract game. You got to be a little mean. You're trying to cut off their lines, and you also can't move through each other's rings. You're trying to block each other with those as well. It's just excellent. If you like abstract games, chess isn't a good example because chess has a bunch of pieces with different movement rules. But if you like games like that, checkers, chess, Go, trying to think of other ones. There's a lot, or any other games in this GIPF project. This one is excellent. The only thing I don't like about it is the box is humongous. It should come in a smaller box. I'm thinking about reboxing it and just making my own box or something, because I think I could store it in half the size, which is kind of helpful for me on a shelf full of board games. But anyways, that's Yinsh, an excellent 2-player game. Beer and Bread and Yinsh, I would both give a very glowing recommendation to if you need a 2-player game. So anyways, those are the board games I was able to play this last week. I've got a package delivering on Saturday with some new ones, and I had one deliver this last week with some other games in it, so too many to play. Just love it. So that's all we've been playing this week. My stomach is rumbling. I hope nobody can hear that, but I'm a little hungry, so just know it's my stomach, folks. Just we'll keep that on the up and up.
Know.
Yeah. All right, next up, we usually go over what we are looking forward to this week. I've got a couple things, Devin, and I'll let you pull those up and let me know if you have any other ones. But first up, we already talked about it. I'm super pumped to play the Plucky Squire on Tuesday when it is out for PlayStation Plus Extra, because this game just looks amazing. It's a puzzle game where you're in this 2D storybook, and then you get thrown out of the storybook, and then you're in this bedroom in the 3D world, and they show you take objects from one plane out into another, and he takes a key with him, and the key turns 3D as well. And there's all these mini games and stuff when you warp into different surfaces. Super pumped for this one. I love puzzle games, and this one's kind of got that Zelda vibe as well, and the artwork is just absolutely beautiful. So very pumped for this one. Is this a Devin game? I know you've mentioned it looks cool before, but I think it's one you'll play.
It does, yeah. I'll definitely try it, yeah.
Looks so good. That one I'm very pumped for. Then also next week, I think a lesser known game is coming out from one of my very favorite video game designers ever. His name is, I think it's Derek Yu. Pretty famous because he designed Spelunky and Spelunky 2. His next game is coming out this next week. and he's doing it, I think, together with one other guy. It's called UFO 50, and it's kind of a crazy, ambitious little thing. They made 50 games. And I think on the Steam page it says like they're all complete, have like a start page, credits, and solid and like thorough and complete gameplay. But they're kind of inspired by like classic arcade machines and stuff. So it's not like, I don't know, Red Dead Redemption 2 length stuff isn't in here, obviously, because this is just going after something different. But there's like a meta story connecting like all of the games. They're supposed to be like all developed by some fake company in the 80s that was working on making games, and so they kind of have a connected story, but they're all available at the start, so you can play them in like whatever order you want to. I don't know much more about it than that. Maybe there is more known information than that, but again, very much a David game. Just very unique idea. Love this designer, and so I kind of trust him blindly just with how great Spelunky is. And this is a very new and different idea from Spelunky, but what a cool idea. So UFO 50, I think, comes out next Thursday on the 17th, 18th, something like that. So I'm excited to try that one out as well. Any other video games, Devin, that you're excited to try in the next little bit?
I don't know what's coming out typically, even though we talk about it every week on the podcast. I'm like, I can't remember. I'm Chernobylite just because it's free. I want to try it and it's horror themed.
Yeah. No, even if some of these like games that I'm pumped about will be ones that have come out a long time ago. It's just what I'm thinking about playing in the near future. These two just happen to be coming out this week, but yeah, cool.
Star Wars Outlaws.
Yeah, I do want to play that as well once it's a little more patched up. But given the struggles that one has had, I'm guessing it's going to be very heavily discounted very quickly. Or maybe even be on like something like PlayStation Plus or Game Pass or something. We'll see. For board games, I think I have the same two games I'm excited about as last week, so we'll just quickly mention them. Andromeda's Edge, I think it's either number 1 or number 2 on the Board Game Geek hotness list. It's starting to deliver for people. I should have mine soon. I haven't gotten a shipping notice yet, but should be soon. It's my favorite worker placement designer. It's a big, kind of more epic space game with your roll dice to fight, and there's like raider spaceships that come out, and there's different, like 12 different types of raiders, and they'll come out randomly. One of them is this giant kind of beehive in space that has 3 different bee ships that attach to it and then pop off. And there's all kinds of stuff. It's a humongous box. Lots going on. It's not an incredibly complex game. It's like a 3-ish on the complexity scale. There's just a lot of pieces and a lot of minis, so it looks bigger than it probably is. And then next up, I'm also very excited to play Expeditions. This one did deliver, so I have it this week. Or just got it. I got it with the Gears of Corruption expansion. Got it all sleeved and put back in the box and unboxed. That unboxing should be up on my channel pretty soon, I think. Game looks very high quality, has a cool insert. I also 3D printed these. I'm just obsessed with the 3D printer. But in this game, you have these. Your little player board is a square, and in the game, it's a card game where you are playing cards down, and then you'll be picking them back up. And when a card's down, you get some perks from it. And a card can be put on the right side of your board, on the left, and on the top, and on the bottom for different abilities. And so having your boards raised like 2 millimeters is helpful, so you can slide the cards underneath. So I made risers. Well, I didn't make them. I found a file and printed risers for the little boards. So
that's awesome.
That's any game that I 3D print stuff for, I've been very excited to play. Beer and Bread. Really enjoyed it. And hopefully I'll enjoy Expeditions. I think that's what we'll play tomorrow at game night. So very pumped for that. Yeah. I think that's it for board games on the very near horizon, though. So, all right, that's it for what we have been playing this week. Devin, in news this week, just got a few things. In video games, there's basically only one thing that everyone's talking about. So we're going to talk about that. I've got a little write-up that I'll go over, and then we can chat about it just for a minute. First up, Sony has officially announced the PlayStation 5 Pro. In a 9-minute video hosted by Mark Cerny, Sony outlines the PlayStation 5's standout features and where they saw some need for growth with this Pro model. The example they gave through the video is that most developers have come up with a graphics mode for fidelity and performance, and that with the Pro, they hope to give you fidelity-like graphics in a performance-like frame rate. So that's what they were hoping to accomplish with this. The three main things that they mention as upgrades are, first, an upgraded GPU. They say, quote, with PS5 Pro, we are upgrading to a GPU that has 67% more compute units than the current PS5 console and 28% faster memory. Overall, this enables up to 45% faster rendering for gameplay, making the experience much smoother. That's cool. I think it's an RDNA 4 GPU. I don't know what that means other than it's a newer version of the RDNA 2 GPU that is in the base model. I watched a video today from Digital Foundry. They're like the techiest of tech guys that understand all of the tech behind like PC gaming and console gaming. And they like break down video games when they come out and analyze frame rates and frame stuttering and what's going on. And they said that a GPU similar to this for PC, they had two in mind that they thought would probably be about the same performance-wise, and they would be between $500 to $700 for the GPU alone. So just keep that in mind. Next up, advanced ray tracing is the second main feature. It's supposed to help with all of the, what do they call it, global illumination. They said, quote, we've added even more powerful ray tracing that provides more dynamic reflection and refraction of light. This allows the rays to be cast at double and at times triple the speeds of the current PS5 console. And the third one is AI-driven upscaling. Quote, we're also introducing PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution, which is being abbreviated as PSSR, an AI-driven upscaling that uses a machine learning-based technology to provide super sharp image clarity by adding an extraordinary amount of detail. Those were what they called the big three upgrades. In the blog post, they mentioned some other things. That games will be launching with PS5 Pro enhanced versions or patches of those games. They list Alan Wake 2, Assassin's Creed Shadows, Demon's Souls, Dragon's Dogma 2, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Gran Turismo 7, Hogwarts Legacy, Horizon Forbidden West, Marvel's Spider-Man 2, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, The Crew Motorfest, The First Descendant, Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, and more. They also mentioned it will give PS5 Pro Game Boost, which will boost performance on backwards compatible games. It can make performance better on PlayStation VR 2 games. Okay, that's kind of the techie stuff. The unit will come without a disk drive. You can still purchase that optional attachable disk drive that they currently sell for the diskless PS5. So you can get that separately. It doesn't come with a disk drive. It will launch with 2 terabytes of storage. So that's a good upgrade because I think the base model is like 800 gigabytes. Now what else did I list here? It will have Wi-Fi 7 VRR support, obviously, like the base one does. And technically 8K support, even though no games do that, and most people do not have an 8K TV. All right, a couple more details. The unit will be available to pre-order on PlayStation Direct on September 26th and available to pre-order at other retailers on October 10th. So the PlayStation Direct store is like a 2-week exclusive on pre-orders. It releases on November 7th, and here's the kicker. It costs $700 US, 700 British pounds, 800 euros, and 120,000 yen. Whew, that was a lot, Devin. 2 first questions I want to ask you. How do you think it looks? Do you like the design of the PS5 Pro? They said it's
fine.
Yeah, I kind of like it, to be honest. The new PlayStation 5, I have the launch one, and I think you do too. But they came out with a new version that looks like this, but it just has one slit through the middle instead of three like the Pro. So it looks more unified with the newer version of the PS5.
I see.
I like the 3-slit thing. They said it's as tall as the base models that we have, but it's as skinny as the newer, thinner models. So it's a little taller than the newer base models, but thinner than the bulky guy I got. So I kind of like how it looks. It doesn't look much different though, other than having it's got racing stripes. All right, Devin, the big one. $700. Would you pay that for a PlayStation 5 Pro?
If I was making good money, I maybe would. I'm a huge settings freak. And if you can combine fidelity with performance and start to slip out of throwing every game you play in performance mode because it's unplayable in the others, that's big, but that's expensive.
It is. And I agree on both fronts. I think it's expensive. And I think it's cool that might be possible. Because I always switch it to performance. Every podcast that I listen to, they do as well. I know you do. They even say in this video that from the data they have, 75% of players play on performance mode. So they know that frame rate's important. And so that was another reason they decided to do this. A couple things. So yeah, the price is crazy, mainly just because we've never had a console cost that much. When Sony announced the PlayStation 3 at $600, everyone freaked out. And they had like a huge problem. Nobody bought any, so they dropped the price. I don't think that's going to happen here. The attachable 4K disk drive is like one of the top selling electronics items on Amazon because everyone's buying them in anticipation of this and is out of stock now. This thing's going to sell pretty well, I think. 2 bits of data I just wanted to bring up. I saw a tweet from Jeff Keighley, and he listed the price of every PlayStation console, might have had Xbox consoles as well, adjusted for inflation. So you take a PlayStation 1 in 1995 or whenever it released at $250, adjust it for inflation. Today it costs $600 or something. And if you look at those numbers, I don't have the tweet pulled up, but most of them were around $600 to $700. And the PlayStation 3 was actually $800 if you adjust it for inflation to today. And like I already mentioned, Digital Foundry said that this new GPU is probably equivalent to a $500 to $700 GPU that you would put in a PC. That GPU in a PC is just one part of a PC, right? You would still need the CPU and whatever else goes in a PC. I don't know all of the pieces.
A lot of things.
A lot of things. And yeah. And so I think it's probably a good deal as far as like, if I want to get into pretty high-end gaming, this seems like it's probably, and there are probably people that can make a PC that's really good for like $700 to $1,000, I imagine. I believe that. At the same time, for like a person that's not as much of a tech wizard, rather just pay the same amount of money for something specialized that has that PlayStation catalog of games, because I really like PlayStation's games. So for me, I would prefer this to a gaming PC, but I already have a PlayStation 5, so I'm not going to buy. And I don't generally do the Pro upgrades. I'll just wait till the PlayStation 6. The price has been a big point of conversation online. Everybody thinks it's too expensive. But man, inflation's crazy right now everywhere in the world. With currencies really struggling. You can even tell like the euro is struggling because it's 800 euro, whereas the euro used to be about 1-to-1 with the dollar. But now it's a whole 100 euro more than the US dollar version. So currencies all over the world are like in weird places. Inflation is rampant. I also saw some people say that if Xbox was more competitive, that Sony wouldn't have launched at this price, and I agree with that. I think they would have, cut it to 600 or something if Xbox was more of a threat, and they're just not. So Sony knows they can make the extra $100. They're probably only going to get the most hardcore of their fans to upgrade anyways, and that's kind of what you get for being an early adopter, hardcore fan. You pay the most. So I don't know. So I'm of two minds. I think it's a good deal, but I think it's too expensive. As far as like, I don't know. Yeah. As far as a console costing $700 is crazy. What I think is going to happen, because on the same day they announced that they're going to start selling refurbished PlayStation 5s for $100 cheaper than their price. So a refurbished Slim is $350 and a refurbished regular PS5 is $400. I think that a year from now, this Pro will cost $600 and the PlayStation 5 will have also gotten a price decrease. And I think they're going to do that after the Switch comes out, to try and like stay more competitive and as exciting as Nintendo's new shiny thing. Also makes me a little worried for what is the Switch 2 going to cost? Is it going to be $500? That would be nuts. Because Nintendo's thing has always been like, we're the low end, like we're $200, we're $250 or whatever. The Switch is $300, I think. But I really doubt they're going to hit that $300 price point again, because they're going to want something more powerful. Again, they're not looking for the same strength as this PS5 Pro, but they need to have a step up because the Switch is struggling to run, most third-party games and stuff. So it'll be very interesting. I bet the Switch is at least $400, which is kind of crazy. Inflation just kills us all. I don't know. Anyways, anything else you want to say about this PlayStation 5 Pro, Devin? Again, I had...
You know so much more about inflation than me.
I don't really know much about it except for eggs are expensive, but if I had unlimited money, I would get one, because like you said, that trade-off just sounds cool, because sometimes I flip games to fidelity mode and I'm like, ooh, that looks nice, until you start moving the camera and I'm like, ooh, that looks like crap, and then go back, because it looks really sharp and crisp, just not in motion. So that is a cool argument, but money, right? Anyways, so that is that's the news there. $700, November 7th. You can pre-order it on the 26th, which is about 2 weeks from now, on Sony Direct. A couple other bits of video game news before we're done with video game stuff, and these are just kind of small ones. Steam has had a feature called Families or Family Sharing or something that's been in beta for a while, but it is now a full feature on Steam. So up to 5 accounts can be in a Steam family and share their game collections, which is cool. I was thinking we should probably do that, Devin. You still need to have multiple copies of a game if multiple people want to play it at the same time. But if we didn't want that scenario, we can still, like, you could play games with my collection and vice versa. I need to cough just a sec.
So I could play the games that you purchased as long as you're not playing them at the same time.
Correct.
Okay.
Which is pretty cool, because I know we don't.
Nice.
Our libraries aren't the same on there, so that'll be cool. You can also set up like children and playtime limits and reports for children and stuff. So, and I feel like my voice is about to go, so we'll see how this goes, but might cough a little bit here. They do have some notes in the support for it. If you leave one Steam family, you cannot join a new one or start a new one for a year. So they don't want people family hopping just to to
gain
cheat the
access.
system. Yeah. So you got that year stuff there. So make sure you're only join it with people you really, probably your family members with. Okay. So that was just a little quick one there. Bungie has announced that Destiny 2 moving forward is going to have 2 expansions per year, and they're going to be medium-sized. whatever that means. So they kind of put this picture up, said Apollo and Behemoth, and they're like the next 2 years of Destiny stuff with something in summer 2025 and fall 2025. So
wasn't the last DLC the end?
I think it was supposed to be. It's like the last major one. So I don't really know what's going on. I don't play Destiny, so I don't have a lot of information here, but I'm guessing they want to keep that game alive because it makes them money. And so my guess is the reason they said medium-sized expansion is to lower expectations. Like, hey, these aren't like big, huge story expansions like the ones we used to do, because most of our team is working on Marathon, but we have a small team here that's going to have some medium-sized updates for you, just so everyone doesn't bail from Destiny, would be my guess. Anyways. Last up, this one's kind of weird, but kind of funny. It's PlayStation's 30th year anniversary here soon, and they said they're going to have more to announce later. This is actually kind of funny. This is one of the ways the design for the PlayStation 5 Pro leaked. You see that image on the Square? It's kind of gray in the background.
Oh, I do.
It's the design of the Pro. I think. Yeah,
but it only has one line.
Oh wait, it's the one behind the PlayStation logo.
Behind the PlayStation
that one
logo,
there has 3 lines. Yep. So this post came out a couple days before PlayStation announced the marks or anything, so everyone was like, "What the heck's this?" But some guy had leaked the drawing, like a hand drawing before, so we kind of already knew. But anyways. So they're going to be doing some fun things for the 30th anniversary. They said more is to come, but they announced these 4 things. First one, My First GT. It's a free trial version of Gran Turismo, so you can try that game. Second one, digital game soundtracks are coming to Spotify, Apple Music, and other storefronts. So if you want to listen to the soundtrack for Twisted Metal on Spotify, there you go.
Nice.
The fourth one, we'll skip the third one for a sec, is a free online multiplayer weekend on September 21st and 22nd. So if you don't have PlayStation Plus, you can get a sample of playing online that weekend. And then the last one, I think, is the coolest, even though it's weird. It's called Shapes of Play. They launch in December. You can pre-order them now on PlayStation's direct website. And there's 3 different versions. Battle is the one in the middle. It's an abstract board game where you're trying to line up 4 different shapes of the same color to win. And kind of like tic-tac-toe, you take turns placing a piece on this grid. There's 2 shapes of each color, so each player has 8 pieces. Just thinking about like the play in my head, it seems like it would end in a draw where neither player wins more often than not, but maybe not. It looks cool though. The pieces are very like glossy and cool looking, but I don't know that as a game that it will be that exciting. It looks like it would be cool on a coffee table. So anyways, that one's $45. It comes out in December like the other 2. The next one is $80. It's called Create, and it's a set of magnetic blocks. I think there's 13 blocks in the set, and you can use them like this, but they also can be rearranged however you want. They kind of magnet together. So you can play with some blocks for $80. Weird thing, but kind of cool looking. And then the last one is called Recharge. And it's a collection of what I'm assuming are stress balls. They say that they are like soft textured touch balls to help you recharge. So those are $35. I think all 3 of them look very cool, but I think all 3 of them are very much like a collector's item. Very expensive for what they are. Come in like a fancy 30th anniversary box. And I think collectors will buy them more than anything. But I don't know, kind of fun for them to do something slightly different for a minute. That is all for video game news. I guess, Devin, of those 3, which would you get? Battle, Create, or Recharge?
Probably Battle. Because I could use it as a decoration play at one time.
Yeah, I agree. And the Create, one with the blocks. I think my kids would like more, but $80 for those magnet sticks is kind of crazy. All right, board games here. We got one news item that I just wanted to bring up just as a tribute to the Dice Tower. They're, probably the biggest American board game YouTube channel in the world. They have like 350,000 YouTube subs. And this guy, Roy Canaday, on the left there, he's been their producer, I think, for a long time. And he's also on a lot of their videos. He's really, really cool guy, it seems. The board games that he likes don't really align with games that I like very much. But I don't even care that I don't like the same games as him because he's just a cool guy. He designed his first game last year or 2 years ago. It came out, it's called Last Light. And that game's been pretty successful. So he's announced that he's leaving the Dice Tower for other opportunities because Last Light was pretty successful. Last Light's a pretty cool looking game. It's that one you're seeing there, Devin, with the big like orb shaped planets. Kind of look like a lollipop kind of standing there on the board, and those discs on the board spin. It's supposed to be pretty cool, but it's kind of a pricey game. I haven't decided if I want to get it, but I would try it for sure if somebody had a copy. Anyways, just wanted to give them a shout out. And that's the only other board game item that I have this week other than the announcements that we went over at the top. All right, Devin, crowdfunding corner. Hopping into that, we've got, I think, 8 different projects that end between the 19th and the 26th of September, and I think some cool looking ones this week. So excited to look at these. First one, this is a 2-player card game from a designer that I really like. His name is John Cloudis. And I have one of his other games. It's called Omen. I have 2 versions of it, actually. And I think it's a really, really good 2-player card game. And this one is much more unique. Omen is like a lane battler where you have 3 lanes and you're trying to win the lanes, which is a pretty common like head-to-head card game idea. In this one, they say it's like worker placement and area majority and deck building, but you're using cards to do all of those things. So the card you place out as a worker to a spot, which can activate some ability. That ability might let you draw new cards from your deck or put new cards in your deck. And whoever wins the locations, kind of the area majority stuff there, will get some influence. There's also like segments of the board that let you draw cards from your opponent's deck. You can convert like cards from your opponent's deck into converts that come over to your side of the board. And if you get enough converts, then you'll get 1 influence, and whoever at the end of the rounds has the most influence wins. Very minimalist art style. Wanted to give this game a shout out just not only because John Cloudis makes really great 2-player card games, but because he kind of like self-publishes his games too. I think he did have a partnership with Colossal for Omen, but this game and a lot of his other games he publishes himself under this label I think called Small Box Games, and he makes them very quickly because they're already finished. It's going to deliver in November, which most board games when you back them on crowdfunding are like at least a year. I think a few weeks ago, Devin, we looked at a game that was like February 2026 as the delivery date. So really cool. He delivers them fast. It's really expensive to get them shipped out of America. His company is based in, I think, Georgia. So anyways, wanted to give it a shout out. Looks like a really cool and unique card game. You actually sit next to your opponent as opposed to like across from them across the lanes. But he has an explanation video of how the game works on the page, and I think it looks really cool. So that's Pariahs, 2-player card game. It's on Kickstarter till the 19th. Okay, next up is a reprint of a game called Pest that I hadn't heard of, but it's a Euro game where you are trying to kind of stop the plague from taking over the town, which sounds similar to a game we talked about last week, but the one last week was a small roll and write game. This is a big game with minis and very expensive, but it has a reprint This is the second edition. So if you bought the first edition, there's like an upgrade pack you can get for your first game to like rebalance it. And an expansion called the Guilds of Okaya, maybe? Which comes with 2 different modules, the Guild Hall and the Clusters modules. This game has quite a few different mechanisms going on. Devin, if you click on the, I think it might be the gameplay section there, and scroll past the videos, I think we should get to the section where it kind of explains how the game works. But there's different phases. In the pest phase, a new card will come out that explains like where the plague is going to attack, and then it's like the action phase where you can move around. You can put sections in quarantine. You can cure people. You can then assign those cured people to buildings that you have built. You can build buildings all over the city. And there's also this big like capital miniature that goes in the center of the city. You can assign people there to get more influence. So that's like a big plastic miniature there in the middle. There's probably an image of the whole board somewhere, but pretty big, lots of pieces. No, this isn't like a cheap small game. It's a big one with lots of wooden pieces and some miniatures as well. So when I first looked at the cover, I was like, oh, is this a social deduction game? But it does look like a pretty competent Euro game. So I want to read about it a little bit more. I like that kind of what do they call that dude? He's like the plague doctor, but it has a better name than that. That vibe with like the guy with the long nose. Looks like a raven man. Gives me Bloodborne vibes, even though it's not that. But anyways, that's Pest. It's on GameFound. Also ends on the 19th. So if you have the first game and just need the upgrade pack or want to get into this Pest game, they have a few different pledge levels. The all-in one is 306 Australian dollars, which is 204 US dollars. I did that conversion earlier today. But they have like a more essentials version that I think ditches some of the minis and stuff. So, but I think even that version was like 100 and something. So kind of a pricey game, but it has a cool vibe. I like that there's more Euro elements. This isn't like a, yeah, I don't know. It's not a social deduction game. It looks pretty solid. So that is what I say was called Pest. All right, next up is one of the other hottest games on the Board Game Geek list this week. It's Cyberpunk 2077. Already has almost $4 million backed, and I think like 14,000 backers, which is crazy. This is a cooperative, which kind of doesn't kill it for me right at the beginning, but it kind of does. I'm not a huge co-op guy. Cooperative, story-driven, tactical action game with real-time fights. That was a lot of words. But basically, you're trying to, there's like a story campaign with I think like 14 different scenarios, and they can be of different types. Like this is an extraction or a fight or some kind of something. And then in the scenario, you have a few different phases you go through. I think there's like the upgrade phase where you go to different shops and you can upgrade your character, and then you go out and like try to complete the mission. You can explore like side areas and stuff too. And then you might get in fights. When you get in a fight, you start a timer. So they're real-time fights, and then you have to like play cards and talk quickly with your teammates to determine like who's going to lead this fight and what cards are we going to play, because there's a real-time element to the game, which usually board gamers don't like real-time stuff. Maybe there's a way to like remove it if you want it to be like turn-based, like okay, now it's your turn and now it's your turn. But I think by default it has that real-time fight element. You can play as V, Panam, Jackie, or Judy. And I think in the stretch goals, there's quite a few other characters that they have now unlocked. Johnny Silverhand, I think that's his name, is in the game as well. I don't know if he's a player character or kind of an adversary character or whatever he is, but there's a lot of stuff on this page, lots of new stretch goals being unlocked. Again, it's kind of a pricey game. You can get the base version that doesn't have any minis for like, I think it's $80. And then the deluxe version here is $140 that does have the miniatures, but that Doesn't include the expansions, I don't believe. So if you want all the expansions too, you got to add those on, and then there's other add-ons you can get too. This is very much one of those, I don't know, a lot of crowdfunding games are focused on, it's just like more and more expansion, more miniatures, and sometimes they look really cool. Like Grim Coven looked really cool a few months ago. And this one looks cool as well. I think like visually it looks really cool. The boards are cool. You get to like slot in your character, and you slot in all these modules at the top and can like, just like in the game, like adjust their, I think you can like use tech to upgrade your eyes and weaponry and stuff. So I don't know. It looks cool, but I don't think this is a game for David. Devin, I think you played the video game pretty recently and enjoyed it, I believe.
Yeah.
Do you think a board game based on that would be fun? Probably hard to envision.
It's hard because board games have so many different mechanics. I don't know that I've ever played a co-op board game in my life.
Yeah, I don't have many. I only have a few, so you might not have. I think you played Forbidden Island with me once, where we were trying to get those different parts of that ship before the island sank. It was many years ago, though, so you might not even remember that.
Yeah, it could be fun, though.
Yeah, it could be fun. It is pretty. After you've completed the story, they have what they're calling an endless afterlife mission generator. So you can generate new missions by choosing a mission category, again, like a fight or an extraction or whatever. And then you can generate new scenarios, I guess. So even though the main story will be done, you can continue doing more scenarios. I do think, like I mentioned, it's story driven. So I think there are segments where you'll stop to like read kind of like a scenario prompt, like, hey, you are approached by this guy, and they're looking like this, and they say this to you. Do you want to A, fight them, B, run away, C, whatever? And then you choose an option, and then there's a skill check, like, okay, you said you wanted to run away, so as long as your movement speed is level 7, you were successful. I do have one game behind me that has a similar idea to that. It's called Near and Far. But it's a bit more of a Euro game with those things kind of in it as well. I'm not sure if I love story elements in board games, but I would love to be convinced by one that I just thought was excellent. Maybe Near and Far will be that. We'll see. Anyways, that one ends on September 20th. Okay. Next up is Minecart Town. This is a pretty simple tile laying game, but I feel like it has some cool elements, and I think it's actually a remake of an earlier game that's just kind of been expanded a little bit as well from a new publisher in Japan called Jelly Jelly Games. In this game, you start with like a little starting building that is the beginning of your town that has like a mountain and a forest maybe that will generate some resources that are probably like stone and wood for you. And then you're going to be getting new tiles in your town that'll be like buildings, or that one listed there is a breeding grounds that breeds, or that gives you the white resource, which is probably cotton or something, or wool. Cool thing about this game is you then have to build railroad tracks from the different buildings in your town. And then on your turn, you can move those resources along the railroad tracks. And when you move them along the railroad tracks, eventually you can get them to a, what do they call it? It's not a conversion. Oh yeah, a processing, like a place that will say like, you can process 2 coal and a wool here for X number of points. So you have to be careful with how you build your railroad tiles in order to be able to get your resources from the place they are built to the processing plants. And it looks like a cool little town by the end. Pretty simple tile laying game, but I like that idea of moving your stuff around on the tracks. It's a little pricey to ship this from Japan, which is very common with games made in Japan, but I thought it looked pretty cool. There's a lot of tile placement games nowadays. but that kind of unique vibe of making sure that you have those railroad tracks tying all of your stuff together, I thought was cool enough that I wanted to bring up Minecart Town. That one on Kickstarter ends on the 23rd, and it does have a tabletop simulator mod and a print and play version too. So if you're really good at that kind of stuff, you could print the digital files and put it on your own, like cardboard or acrylic tiles. That would be pretty hardcore and cool. I don't know that I'm that cool, but maybe one day. Okay, next up is a game that when I first saw it, I was like, there's no way I'm covering this on Crowdfunding Corner, because the artwork looks like my 8-year-old drew Dragon Tales. It doesn't look that bad, actually. I don't want it to sound bad. It just looks like it's very much aimed at kids, right? That's like the first vibe I got from that. But the game is actually like fairly competent. It's like a card drafting and dice drafting game where you're trying to build this tableau of cards in front of you. They start on their gray side, and then if you take the correct dice, you can flip them to their blue side, and then where they connect might get you some bonuses, or these cloud tokens that will let you, I think, adjust the die value of the dice that you draft. I watched a video about how to play this one, and I was like, wow, that seems like a pretty solid, like lighter game. And it's meant for kids 10 plus. I was like, man, I don't want to like throw any shade at the game because I kind of like the art, to be honest, but I feel like if they had gone for an art style that was just slightly older, because this looks like an art style that would be in a game for, I don't know, 5 or 6 year olds, in my opinion. And I think just a slightly older facing art style would have helped this game to seem like it's more like the 10 plus age. It reminds me of a game that I really love called Sheepy Time. I'm actually going to grab it just for reference. Sheepy Time is an excellent push your luck game where you're trying to decide like how many times you can go around this track before this like evil nightmare piece goes around the track or touches you too many times. It's excellent. It's one of my friends that comes to my game night. It's his favorite game. I asked him to rate it on a scale from 1 to 10, and he's like, can I give it 100? Like, he loves it. But this is what the cover looks like. And so you see that, like, that cover, and you're like, man, this is not a game for me, because I'm a gamer, and I play games. I don't color in a coloring book. So sometimes, the color, or the cover, very much deceiving in board games, just like with books. And this one caught me off guard, because again, it looks like, what would you say that looks like? My Little Pony? Is that like that art style?
Yeah, it looks like a coloring book. It's crazy.
But the game seems pretty competent, in my opinion. So, yeah, I said a lot of words there. And I don't think this is like it's a pretty light game still, but it looks solid for a light game. So I wanted to give Sky Painters a shout out. It ends on the 24th. Also on Kickstarter. Yeah. And another kind of fantasy focused game here. We got Moon Bunny. This one's done pretty well. It's already got 110,000 and almost 2,000 backers. This one has 2 different pledge levels, and it looks, to be honest, in my opinion, like a simpler game than the one we just looked at. Again, the kind of the art style can be deceiving here. This one doesn't look like it would be incredibly heavy either, but you have these rabbits. This one's kind of based on, what do they say it's based on? Japanese lunar mythology or something like that. That might be totally wrong, but you move these rabbits along this grid of tiles and take them into your shop. Wow, that P really popped. Into your shop in order to, I think, just have the best shop. It's a pretty simple like game where you are taking those tiles in your shop and you're making mooncakes, and then whoever does that the best wins. And I think the different rabbits have different movement rules. Like one can move in a straight line, one can move in different directions. And so, again, pretty simple. You're just taking those tiles from that board. It is really pretty. It has two different versions. The deluxe version is like very pretty and has like a gold box with like different art on the back of the box.
It has mooncake squishies.
Yeah, I saw that. I was wondering
and
if they were
acrylic tiles.
Yeah, and acrylic tiles are awesome. When that says mooncake squishies, I'm wondering if they're as nicely squishy as like the pieces in Honey Buzz, because those are like, ooh, those are a good squish. So hopefully those are great. Vibe of this reminds me of this Netflix show that my kids really loved that I can't remember the name of, but it was all about this little girl whose mom died, and then she built a rocket to the moon, and their family had a shop that made mooncakes, and she had a pet bunny. And so again, it just must be all based on that same, type of Japanese legend or whatever that we don't know as well in America. But it was a cool movie that my kids liked for a long time. Very, very strange, but cool. So anyways, that's Moon Bunny. It's got a little bit of buzz at this point, but it seems like a fairly simple, lightweight game. All right, two more here. First is kind of the opposite. This is a pretty complex tactical card game for 2 or 4 players. This one is, yeah, it's a trading card game. And so when you start, you choose a hero and kind of their mech suit, and that will be like your character. And your opponent does as well. And then you build a deck. And that's probably where this game loses me. But I don't know. I have the Lord of the Rings TCG or LCG living card game, and I've wanted to get into that, which does also have you build decks. So this might be like a mechanism that I'm okay with. There are different types of decks. They recommend an aggro deck for a starting deck, for example, but you can get more subtle, I guess, than that. The field of play has like it's a grid, rows and columns, where you're setting out the first 2 rows in front of you are your base. Then there's like the space. They call it the Nix, the space area in between the 2 players, and then the other player's base. And you're putting cards out and attacking and destroying the other people's cards, all with the goal of destroying your opponent's pilot. To destroy their pilot, you have to destroy their mech that they're in first. So if you like kind of a hardcore one-on-one, I'm imagining this is primarily going to be a one-on-one game, even though it has a 2v2 mode in, I think, the more expensive version of the game. Then I think it's supposed to be pretty solid. It had some pretty good previews and buzz. I think the artwork is pretty cool, to be honest. I just, I don't know. I'm very picky with head-to-head card games. I really like Radlands. I like Omen that I mentioned earlier. And I have one that I backed a few months ago called Sovereign that had similar like sci-fi art, but it was a little bit different and more like what would you call that? A little less focused on just like damage and me throwing damage tokens all over your characters. But this one might be really, really solid. So I don't really have a ton more to say about it. There's a ton of cards with lots of different categories of cards. You got biomes and reactors and pilots and mechs, and I think location cards that you can put on the side of the board that affect like the entire play state. Again, if you like card games, Magic the Gathering and things like that, I imagine this might be up your alley. It's kind of pricey for like a deck of cards and a little mat, in my opinion. But I don't know. Trading card games are just generally expensive. So that is Havoc Gen 0, which is also on Kickstarter and ends on September 26th. All right, and then last up for this week, we've got Natera New Beginning. This is they say expert level worker placement game. I think it looks a little more medium. If you've played medium weight Euro game, I think you'd be just fine. I watched a video and read a bit of the rulebook. It looks like it'd be closer to a 3 out of 5 on the heaviness scale and not a 4, in my opinion. But it looks pretty cool, to be honest. There's 4 different factions of animals, and you are exploring out from the center of the board in this kind of forest area to these 4 different regions of this world that used to have people in it but don't anymore. And you put out your workers and get stuff. And you can also play cards and use the abilities on the cards. And every time you go explore in the different regions, your what do they call it? I think it's your influence in that region goes up. So each of the 4 regions has a different influence track. And eventually someone will get to the 3rd spot on the influence track, and then the tier 2 buildings become accessible to anyone that's reached that far. And then the tier 3 ones can as well a little bit later. So it has a cool progression kind of out from the center of the board. And if you have the most influence in a region, then you get this cool, like, I control this region tile, and you get some extra bonuses at the end of each round. So it's a kind of medium weight, like, worker placement card game, but it has some cool, like, area control elements that I really liked. So yeah, I don't know. I just think it looks pretty cool. You can also build settlements out on the different locations on the board, and they'll kind of give you control of them. And if anyone else goes to that location, then you get stuff. So you're kind of fighting for control on the board. You got the worker placement on the board. If you have a control of a region, you get a cool bonus at the end of the round. You can play cards out, and the different cards do different things. If it's got an orange back, then it gives you a new, like, action that you can do on your turn as opposed to playing a worker. So I don't know. I think it looks like it could be pretty solid. I also want to give them a shout out. I like it when companies just have one version of the game. It might be a little nice if this one had 2, to be honest. But this one version that they doubled down on is they call it a pre-stretched deluxe version. So everything looks nice. Like, the wooden pieces are all like screen printed. Comes with a little mini expansion with extra cards. The player boards and the main board are double layered, which is cool. Those buildings will go in kind of these inserts on the main board. I love double layered boards. They call them dual layered, actually, so I don't know why I'm saying double, but so yeah, I think it looks really cool. It is $89, I think, but I mean, it looks high quality, I think, in my opinion. So yeah, that's Natera New Beginning, kind of a cool animal theme where humans have gone extinct, the way of the dodo. That one ends on the 26th as well, and that one is our last game in Crowdfunding Corner this week. And Devin, you know what time that means it is. It means it's time for Devin, the Halloween Guys, pick of the week.
For me, it's not even close. We got to go Natera.
Yeah, I thought it would be. This is I have 2 that I really liked, and a couple of others that I thought looked solid as well. But yeah, this Natera one is definitely one of them. Yeah, I think it looks awesome. I mean, I love medium weight worker placement games, so it's already like right on my alley. But it has like asymmetric player powers, dual layered boards, lots of cool wooden pieces. You get to play as a gorilla or a badger. Might be a beaver, not a badger. I know animals, I think. Yeah, I think it looks really cool. But I think just for a little diversity's sake, I'm going to give my shout out to Pariahs. That card game that we started with. Again, I really like card games from John Cloudis. And just want to really support like a uber indie like card game here. And yeah, his games have like really unique ideas in them, and this one looks like it's off the charts with like crazy ideas, like stealing cards from your opponent's deck as converts, and if you get so many of those, you get a point. And If you win the area majority locations, you get a point, and it's all kind of about becoming the most influential kind of a clan in this government, I guess. But really, it's a card game. But looks really fun. Yeah, shipping in America, I think is $5, maybe $6. Outside of America, it's a little more rough, just because that's how it is to ship stuff from one country to another. But really, I was hoping that you picked one of those two so I could pick the other one. So that worked out really nicely. We got Natera, New Beginning, and Pariahs as our picks of the week this week. That will do it for Crowdfunding Corner. All right, Devin, just to end our show out really quickly, since we're at like 2 hours-ish already, somehow. Because of Astro Bot's glory, I wanted to just come up with a list, maybe not even a list, just a commemoration of what our favorite 3D platformers are, which is a genre I'm very picky with because there are some bad ones. I think there's a lot of bad ones, to be honest. And so I put quite a list here. And if there's any that you want to like start with shouting out, Devin, or any others you want to bring up, this can just kind of be an inspiration. I think I want to see like where Astro Bot will fall when it's all said and done, because these are like mighty high shoes to fill. I guess just kind of, I'll just start with a few, but I think, Mario is the king here, especially in the 3D realm. I think in 2D, then Mario's got a little competition with, Donkey Kong Country and some others, but in 3D, I think Mario wins. And Super Mario Galaxy is one of my very favorite games of all time. I think 2 might like technically be a little bit better. You've got Yoshi and some more crazy ideas, but the first one is so like nostalgic to me that I think I'll probably always prefer the first one. But yeah, Super Mario Galaxy, just amazing, and I feel like one of the main inspirations for Astro Bot. Just these cool. As I was thinking about this, I think one thing I really like in 3D platformers is if they're level based. And the example I'd give here is like these Galaxy games, which are level based. You choose a galaxy or a level basically to go to, and then you play on that level, versus something like Super Mario Odyssey, which I also really liked, but it's more of like these kind of halfway open world segments, and then you're trying to find as many moons in those segments. And I also feel like because there are so many moons in those games, there's like 900, it kind of dilutes like the feeling you get from like beating a level. Whereas like in Super Mario, I think Galaxy, I think there's 60, but then if you want to do all the extra stuff, there's 120 total. So that just means there's like 120 levels basically, which is I think great. But then like in Super Mario Odyssey, I'm like, oh, I looked under this bush and found one. And then I drove this remote control car or did some hopscotch for a second. Oh, and I found another moon. So you're just always getting moons. Super Mario Odyssey is pretty great as well, but I like the level based 3D platformers, I think, which is why I'm really liking Astro Bot. Have you played Super Mario Galaxy and Galaxy 2, Devin? I'm assuming
I've played at least one of them, yes, and I thought it was so cool.
Yeah, so good. I have both of them here at my house. I need to play them again. Maybe I'll just do that on our YouTube channel. That it just for no other reason than just for me to play them again. Yeah, I guess other Mario shoutouts really quick before we move on to this one. Mario Sunshine and 64 I also like. I just like Galaxy better. And real big shout out to Super Mario 3D World, which is basically, it's like those games, but you have 4-player co-op. It's like the first game that I was able to play with my wife that she really loved, and teaching our kids how to play video games, like they loved this game, and it's just so fun to play together. most Mario games, especially 2D ones, are not fun to play multiplayer in my opinion, because you're just always bouncing on each other and accidentally throwing somebody down a hole. But these do the co-op so well, and just because there's a little more space to maneuver in 3D, like you're not running into each other nearly as much. So really love Super Mario 3D World as well for co-op. Continuing the co-op, I guess real quick before you go to Donkey Kong Devon, Sackboy: A Big Adventure is also a really good one. I really liked it. I wouldn't say it's like S tier, but I would say it's A tier. This was a PlayStation 5 launch game, and I've played through this entire game with my kids as well. And it's very much based on 3D World because you can have 4-player co-op in it. You can actually do online co-op as well. But really fun levels. You've got Sackboy with some weird like objects here. It's showing him with like a boomerang, and you get like a grappling hook and other stuff. They have some really cool levels in this game that are based on music. So there'll be like a song in the background. I think since it's a Sony game, they were able to get like some Sony songs. So I think like there's a Bruno Mars song. I think it's Uptown Funk is like the basis for one of the levels, and so that song is playing in the background. All the characters are dancing to the song and stuff. This game is really good. If you like 3D platformers, I think it's really good. I feel like it didn't get very much love, but yeah, again, not quite S tier, but really like that one, especially for co-op. It's just a blast to play together. So I want to give those a shout out. And then Devin, you were pulling up Donkey Kong 64. I know that a lot of people don't like this game because it's like very much a collectathon, and there's like different colors of bananas, and you can only collect those bananas if you're playing as the right character at the moment. So like Diddy can't pick up those blue bananas he just went by. And so it's very like collectible heavy, but man, growing up, we didn't have a Nintendo 64, but every time I went to my friend's house and they did, I thought this was the coolest thing ever. Just
the
because
Bischoffs?
Yeah, I think they had it, and then my friend who lived in those apartments kind of behind us over the fence, he had it as well. That yellow cartridge. And I just remember thinking it was the coolest thing ever, because at that point I was like, we were pretty heavy into our Donkey Kong Country love at the time, so this was like the coolest looking thing ever. I don't think it's excellent. I actually started it a few months ago and got probably 5 or 6 hours in. It's fun, but yeah, a little janky and weird. Definitely preferred Donkey Kong in 2D, but back then I thought it was the bee's knees. A few more here, Devin, that I just wanted to shout out. Sly Cooper, I think, is an excellent series. I haven't played all 3 of the originals, but I have played, I think, 1 and maybe 2. I think, and I've played 4, which is the most recent one that was on PlayStation 3 and PlayStation Vita. And what an excellent game. It's just a really great like stealth stealth 3D platformer with some fun mini games. You have some weird characters. One of the characters is a turtle in a wheelchair. I forget his name, but just a fun list of characters. You go to like 5 different open worlds in this game that have like all these things you need to do in them, and a fun story. Really, really. Number 4 was the first one I played, because 1, 2, and 3 weren't like out, I don't think, yet in the collection on PlayStation 3. So I was like, sure, I'll jump in, knowing nothing about it. I was very impressed. So Sly 4, really cool. I hope Sly Cooper comes back one day, but he probably won't, because I think that Sucker Punch now makes Ghost of Tsushima. They were who did Sly Cooper 1, 2, and 3, and then did Infamous. And I think the team that did Sly 4 was purchased by like Facebook or Google or something. So probably it might not happen, but we can hope. And then a few more just from back in the day. Got to give a big shout out to Crash Bandicoot. I think especially numbers 2 and 3 start to get more into like more 3D. The first one has a little bit, but it's a little more 2D focused. Yeah, love Crash Bandicoot. All 4 of them, including the newest number 4, are excellent. This is the Insane Trilogy. It's like a full remake they did a few years ago. If you liked Crash growing up, playing it in this trilogy is really fun because everything like looks excellent too. Such a fun, very like brutally hard though. Those games are tough. Really fun. And then 2 more PlayStation 1 games one of them I'm very excited. We just talked about last week is getting a remaster. Croc, Legend of the Gobbos. Again, not S tier. Probably put this one on B tier maybe, but we thought it was really cool. And you're basically just going around saving your little fuzzy gobbo friends. They look like a little I don't even know. There's those puzzle dudes on Oddworld, and these guys, the gobbos, kind of look like that. Who knows why a crocodile is their friend, but he is. So
Yes, he
that.
is.
And then last up, Ape Escape was one of the first ones that I really loved as well. That first time using the DualShock and being able to control the net and the other gadgets with the right stick, that was crazy. So yeah, I love 3D platformers, but I feel like that's one of the genres that's hard to do very well. There's been a lot of bad ones, in my opinion. I feel like 2D platforming is easier to pull off, and so there's been more good ones in 2D. But anyways, that was my list, which was kind of long and exhaustive. But any other games that you've thought of, Devin, here while we've been chit chatting?
I do see the one added here. It Takes Two. That game was truly amazing. Have you played it?
I haven't. Yeah, I added it because I thought I know that you really enjoyed it, but I haven't played it yet.
Yeah, game is amazing and will truly pull at your heartstrings. A variety of mechanics and all co-op. What more could you ask for? Fantastic.
Yeah,
and it's new
Game of the
with
Year.
good graphics.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's supposed to be very great. So
I've got 2 polls for different reasons. First one, I don't really have a link for it, but I could just type it in
oh, good call. Yeah, I love
Gex.
This.
There was a 3D version of Gex that was
I think it's that one there.
Hilarious to play. I remember fighting like pumpkins and Frankenstein and
yeah, and like the Looney Tunes level was funny as well.
Yeah, and then you go to like Japan or something and I played a lot of this 3D one and I don't even know where I played it. But like I remember this section right here.
Yeah, I think we had it. I think.
Oh, okay. That's where I played it then, at home.
Yeah.
And then my last shout out is a game I didn't even play, but I used to run a sales team and worked with a girl who actually played video games when she was young. And we watched an entire playthrough on YouTube of Banjo-Kazooie. And it might not even have been that amazing, but we watched a lot of the playthrough.
Mm-hmm.
Or we watched the whole game. And I was like, this was fun. I got to know the story. And I didn't have the pressure of playing it.
Yeah.
And so
yeah, it's supposed to be great. It was just, again, we didn't have a Nintendo 64, so that one just kind of missed us.
Yeah, it's funny. Every game in my life I've played thoroughly. Yeah. Any game that I know I've played thoroughly. And so to watch a playthrough of a game was very foreign to me. But it was a good way to pass the time.
Yep, this one was also made by Rare, who made Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong 64. So they knew what they were doing back there with those what would you call those, like character platformers.
Mm-hmm.
And Banjo and Kazooie are cool characters. I think they're cool looking. And you'll probably remember, having watched the playthrough, there's kind of the joke about how all the characters talk. Like the witch.
Oh, they do always do that. Yeah. They
talk really weird. Yeah, that one's supposed to be great.
My favorite of your polls, I mean, it's hard for me because Mario, Donkey Kong, and all of them are so nostalgic, but Crash Bandicoot has this place. Yeah. The way that you exit and enter levels, the secret bonus levels, Crash Bandicoot is fan-freaking-tastic.
Yeah. I feel like the third one, like most, like shocked us growing up, because it had like, all of a sudden you're on the motorcycle level, and then you're on the airplane. And then the dinosaurs chasing you or whatever. So it was just like a little wackier and felt a little more 3D. But I think all 3 of them are excellent. I kind of feel like the first one might just be like I don't know. I like all 3 of them. First one's definitely the simplest and shortest. But yeah, 3D platformers, they're fun. We don't get a lot of them nowadays though, other than Mario. So I hope that Astro Bot will be like a new franchise for Sony. It seems like it's going to be, just based on how incredibly well it's been received. But we don't know yet like how much it's sold. Maybe people don't want to buy at full price a 3D platformer, and if that's the truth, I would be very sad. But I hope that it's sold 10 million copies already, but I don't think it has. So we'll see. All right, Devin. Well, that was a fun ending segment. That's going to do it for episode 24 of the Super Game Brothers podcast. Thanks so much for listening and watching, everybody. Make sure to check out the rest of our stuff on our YouTube channels, Super Game Brothers and Gaming Top Down. Check us out on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Super Game Brothers. And make sure to join our monthly giveaway. I think that's it for the housekeeping, Devin. So I need to get you out of here so you can go to bed, since somehow it's already midnight. And yeah, we'll have a good Thursday tomorrow. So until next time, have a good one.